What's up? Welcome back to the Friends with Words podcast. This is episode 3. 3 episodes, you're still listening to this shit. What are you doing with your life? My very special guest on the episode is Mr. Jordan Handren-Seavy. We had a conversation and we spoke about bad intros, the state of Maine, the election season, and especially his upcoming album recording. So without further ado, here's our conversation.
I was I telling you this? Mike Birbiglia, and they brought him up on stage. It was you know that company around here, what is it, Society of Grown-Ups? They have all the ads all over the train and shit, but it's like financial services, and they're like trying to market it towards millennials and shit of like, it's time to start thinking about your money. I saw they had a private event and for their like opening or whatever, and they got Mike Birbiglia to play it, and somehow I won tickets to it off of Twitter, but it was just at like a super nice restaurant, and it was just all, it was weird. I didn't know.
You didn't belong there, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I looked like I did. It was all like young people like me and shit, but it was me and my girlfriend went and didn't know anybody else, and everybody else knew each other. But we will watch him, and the lady who brings him up just goes, and now the reason you're all here, please welcome Mike Birbiglia. And he walks up, and then she like pulls out a piece of paper, and she's like, okay, Mike, so let's go over some of the stuff you've done. And then just literally like she printed out his IMDb or whatever, just like reading off, and she'd be like, you were on an episode of Girls. And he's like, yeah, I did that. She goes, okay. And like go for like too long too, and then it was like, okay, well, here you go, and just hands him the mic, and he's like, all right, I guess I got to start now, okay?
Well, speaking of IMDb, Jordan, I just looked you up. What's up with the water in the bay? Apparently, that's what you're known for. That's what you're known for.
That is a full-length movie that me and my friends made. And you can find it. I think they put it on YouTube. It's on their website also, which is Tasty Dude Films.
Was there like a lack of water in this bay?
It's about a murder. But it's like kind of a comedy. It's a dark comedy, but it's like, I don't know. We were younger then. We're all like proud of it, but it is a little like teenage angsty. But we're all in our like early 20s. And it's about a murder, and they think a serial killer did it who's been arrested, but then like through DNA evidence a year later they found out it wasn't the serial killer. And so it's just the story of the kid who got murders, his sister, and like her family, and how the murder like broke up the family and stuff. Yeah. But now it's like all being brought up again because like a year later they're finding out that they just don't really know who the murderer is.
Is this before a comedy or what?
Yeah, this is before I ever did stand up. I was doing sketches with these guys. We did a lot of other sketches before that. We used to do the 48-hour film festival up in Portland a lot. And the funny thing was like I never thought to try stand up, but like everything I would want to do or did was comedy stuff. Yeah. I thought it was the best, but like for some reason I just didn't think to go try stand up. But the thing was, it took us probably 3 years from I met them while they were writing the script. We did a 48-hour film fest, and they had already started the script, and then we did a few sketches together, and then they were like, why don't you like join us and it was 3 other guys, and they were like, join us and help us, with everything and this and be in the movie and stuff. And then from the time making it probably took us about a year to shoot everything, because we were shooting like on weekends and whenever somebody could be available and stuff. And then I guess maybe we started in the winter, and then when it came around to summer and we had shot like half of it, we were like, all right, we are gonna fucking finish this thing in the summer. And that's when we like took like we would take 3 days off from work and be like, we were shooting all, that whole time and doing it for real. And then it was another like year and a half of editing and
all the
sound
production
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of our friends helped that we know from like filmmaking and stuff, and you're asking most of them to do it for free. And or like, hey man, we got $40 to throw you. Sorry, that's all we got. And so they're like, they do a great job and stuff, but you're just not a priority for them.
And that was going down in the great state of Maine.
Yeah,
the hometown.
All shot in Portland. Yeah, it's actually it's a good movie. When I show somebody, I'm not embarrassed by it. Like I'm proud of it. But for our first movie, like we learned a lot from shooting, and then also like seeing the final product. It was so weird, finally seeing the movie, and almost not even remembering like why we started it in the first place. It just became something that we had to finish, and you go like, why did we think this was a good idea?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Nice, man. But no, so I know you said some of your bits before you talk about Maine. What are like you talk about Maine racists? What are racists in Maine like that?
It's just scared, ignorant people. It's people who've never met, hardly any other race. Or there's a lot of weird people who are like, we had maybe one black kid in each grade in my high school. And one guy was like friends with a bunch of hick dudes that I would say like, I could pick plenty of times when they were like super racist, but they don't think they're racist because they're like, no, I'm Andre's friend. Yeah. How can I be racist?
Yeah, I know one guy, so like know one, you know them all.
But no, that's the thing, and I think that's the difference between like Maine and the South are very similar type of people, but like the racism down there, it's not. It's different because races are around each other all the time, and so you build up different types of prejudice. But in Maine, it's all like myth prejudice, like. Black people do this, and you're like, we don't know that.
Yeah,
there's no community of black people around that we could point to, or like Mexicans or anything. And the only one that is there's a large Somalian population in Portland and in Lewiston.
Go on.
And that it just is so funny because it's the same thing of like, I've met a lot of Somalian people. They're super nice people, but they are kind of brought here as refugees, shoveled into one corner of a town, and then they're like, fuck man, we gotta do what we can with this, so they open up Somali stores and stuff like that, and it insulates them. And then also on the outside, it's people not ever venturing in to actually talk to anybody, just like looking at like, what is this strange thing here? And so they just come up with who they are in their head without ever actually interacting with them or anything.
Yeah, because I was up there for the first time ever this year. I had a friend, they rented out a house up in Portland, and going out through town, everything seemed nice. Everyone was nice and friendly, but you could literally just count the black people on your hand, but no one was staring or saying anything really. No. It was just like
Portland's a microcosm though. It's super liberal, super like compared to the rest of Maine. And the thing is, everybody is nice. It's
overwhelmingly nice.
Yeah. And even up in the country, I grew up like an hour north of Portland on a farm and stuff, and so many of the people in the little town that I grew up in are nice. And say you went there, like you would never hear or see anything from anybody, and you would be just welcomed, and it would be warm and everything. But it's not that. It's like jives about like Obama and stuff, because everybody's like very Republican, and it's ignorance because they'll like say some like racist thing or whatever, and it's just because they've heard that,
or they think
and they attach it on, but it has no context for them. They don't know any like group of like any other race, Mexican, black people, like enough to actually know like any stereotype they think of is just purely based on something they heard, not something they have ever experienced. Yeah. So it's a weird. I have it a lot with my parents when I like go back and talk to them about anything like they wouldn't vote for gay marriage. My dad wouldn't vote for gay marriage.
Yeah,
and they have a gay friend, and so that's their justification of how they're not homophobic. And I was just like, why? But my dad will be like, he's super libertarian, and he's like, I don't think the government should be involved in marriage at all. And I was like, okay, that's fine for you, but at least allow other people the choice of wanting to hate the government or not.
Like, give everybody a chance.
Yeah.
That's what's democracy. Speaking of like democracy, as of the events of this past couple of weeks, what is the point of voting? Is there really a point nowadays? I feel like
I didn't vote this year because I was just like
no, but I feel like the way that things like everything's coming out nowadays, it kind of seems like who is really in charge?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like this whole idea of like voting for a person. Like I feel like we have come so far technology-wise, and then we're still using this crazy old system of like send one person up there to talk for the rest of us.
Exactly. Or like, even the fact of just having like one person being in charge. I mean, you think about it nowadays. I mean, it's why do we have this one kind of leader? We should have at least two people who can make decisions and bounce ideas off of, and not have to go to an elementary school on a Tuesday to wait in a line. And to pick who this is, like, we
talk about like how how sacred voting is and how you have to vote and everything, and then it's like try and get out of work to go vote. Like they don't make it a holiday. That's ridiculous. That is not a holiday.
Exactly,
it is absolutely ridiculous. And I would have thought there's a whole bunch of stuff about the founding fathers too, but I would have thought that that would have been the first thing of like everybody goes and votes, or like voting is on a Sunday, or everybody goes and has the day off to go vote. But the other thing is they didn't, even the founding fathers, I hate how much people hold them up as like this amazing thing that they made. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson said it'll probably have to be rewritten in 20 years.
Yeah.
He's like, I give it 20 years and what we did here will fall apart and they'll come up with something new. But this is a good start. And now they're just like tote them as geniuses and stuff. And it's like, it's really not that, like, it's very rudimentary of like, and I mean, they were even wrong where they had fucking slaves and shit, but that side of point, like... Yeah.
At least they had foresight, though.
Yeah.
They had way more foresight back then than we ever had. It's kind of like just buy the book. They wrote that, that's what we're doing. We change shit all the time.
Yeah, and they were used to shit changing all the time, but... Yeah, they had foresight, and also... I don't know, it's just... The people who, like, hold them up as, like... It's like we have come so far, and technology is so much different, and we have geniuses that would seem like aliens to, somebody like Bill Gates would seem almost alien and just have an intellect beyond comprehension to any founding father, with because he knows everything they know, and then
some.
250 years more, and that he can't come up with something a little better than that. Like we can absolutely come up with something better, but it's just so many people have claws in how this system is set up that's weird that we haven't had any new amendments in years. In probably was the 26th Amendment? It was maybe in the 50s or something. Was the last time and now it just will never happen.
I mean, when you have a reality star who might become our president, it kind of just shows we have an issue.
It's done. Yeah. Like this system is broken and done. We got it. But here's the thing: the people in power have to see, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. In history, have to see that either they take the first step into changing it to save their own ass. Otherwise, it goes into revolution, and they're the first people to get, thrown out or whatever because everybody's angry at them.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a weird, like, you just watch those conventions, and it's like, I feel like Trump just wants the title more than the job.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's more about, like, he wants to say, like, the fact that I did this. He doesn't want to do the job. He wants to be able to say, you know what, I was the greatest con man of all time.
He fucking just flies around on jets and gets blown. Like once the real, idea of what being president means, either he'll shrug off all responsibility
and give it to somebody else,
and not be doing shit, and will go to waste that way. Which it would actually, if he won, be maybe the best scenario if he was just fucking lazy and shit like that. Or he'll run shit in the ground. I hate how much people have said what a good Like, when he says he's a builder, I'm like, no, you're not. You're the dude that shows up on the job site once a year and kind of fucks everything up for a day because you think you know what you're doing.
And then doesn't pay people.
Yeah, and then, well, and that's the other thing, is his business record is not that great. He's not a great businessman. But his whole thing is that I'm the best businessman. Yeah. And that's first, and then quality is second, opposed to quality is first, and then everybody recognizes that second. So this is a great story. I think more people should know about this, how it worked. There was I think it was the Taj Mahal, maybe.
The one in what's it called
Atlantic City.
Yeah, by the way, if you guys have never been in Atlantic City, do not go.
No, fuck that place. No. Somebody else had started building it, and they went bankrupt, and they had already had this giant building. And he came in and said, I can do it better, and I'll get... The thing was that nobody would give building loans because it was already like, this is going to be a failure, we're not going to... So any loan they would give would be like 34% or something like that. And he's like, no, I can do it because I'm me, and I'm the best negotiator, and I'll get the best loans for real cheap. And so the city okayed him to make the purchase of it and take it over. Then he didn't get those loans because they're like, no, we're not gonna fucking do that. Like, we're not idiots. Everything was like shoddy from day one. Like, for a long time it didn't have sewage, or it didn't have water or anything. Like, and then it finally opened and just like tanked, and nobody was coming to it. And he tried to get bailed out by his father coming in with... His father would send guys in with bags of money. They would buy chips, take those chips, leave, and just throw the chips away. So that, like...
So he'd have, like, some kind of income on the books or something.
So he would have cash on the books coming in and not be paying it back out. And that's illegal. You can't do... That's a loan without signing a piece of paper, and that's illegal to do. And it ended up going bankrupt.
Anyway, yeah.
And they closed it down, and now it's just like a giant lark in Atlantic City of like a dead building that nobody knows what's going to happen with, and is just sitting there. But the whole reason, it wasn't just something he started from the ground up. He came in, much like the country, came in and said, I can do this because I'm the best. And that was just, he just pushed that and pushed that and pushed that with nothing backing it up. And then when they were like, all right, you say you're the best, and they gave it to him, and everything fucking fell apart.
Yeah, he has another deal like that where he actually cheated this little small kind of contracting firm. He was like, okay, kind of handshake agreement. I'll pay you this if you make this. It's like a dining hall in a hotel. They're supposed to make a dining hall, and this small time guy, he has maybe like 20 or 30 people in his staff, and they make it for him. And after it's done, I guess he's just like, well, yeah, Trump said he's going to do this, and then he offered me half. And so his whole thing was like, well, you can take it up with my lawyers, and so he's a small guy.
Yeah.
And so the lawyer fees, and by the time that he would fight him, the business would go under. Yeah. So he said, okay, I'll pay that, and then before he was going to give him the money, he gave him another 15-20% off that price. And he just had to take it. The dude had to take it because, the time he would be spending on legal fees, he couldn't afford to keep his business moving. So he just screwed a guy pretty much with lawyers.
Also, he raped a chick. He raped a 13-year-old, too. So that was a weird story. I think it was on Huffington Post.
Friends with Words exclusive, guys.
No, I'm trying to get this out there because just like his tactics, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a story that was put out there. So I just go, hey, do you prove it's not true?
Well, it was on the internet, right? Because
it was on Huffington Post, and it's he was either sued or brought to court. Like, there are legal things about it, and he settled out of court. But it was one of his other rich friends, I forget who it was, apparently had this kind of high-end brothel going, and he came in and fucked this 13-year-old girl 3 different times, and I guess the last time he beat her up, and one of the other girls there saw it, and she ended up taking him to court a few years later and suing, and they settled out of court.
Just gave her just hush money, pretty much.
I'm sure, or just here's some hush money, and then she goes away thinking she got money, and then somebody killed her.
Because that's whatever they gave her is she thinks that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and so.
But still, even if that's with that type of people, I feel like that's not true. I just feel like that is I feel like that is true. Not that it's not true. I feel like something
Yeah.
like that crazy is true when you get into like the weird world of super rich people and
Yeah.
stuff.
And it's just so many double standards too. Like it's so crazy. Like his life. Like if Obama had his life, he could never even be a senator. Like if you switched their lives as a person, like he could never even get anywhere near where he is.
The black version of Donald Trump is what's his name? Herman Cain.
Yeah,
It's Herman Cain.
well done, sir, well done. But yeah, it's just like, but the thing is, like, he would never. If there was a black guy who had 3 wives,
Yeah.
3 wives before and barely read the Bible,
Yeah.
you're not even getting anywhere near the presidency. Just not happening.
Well, there'd never be a black guy that barely read the Bible. No, yeah, it's just horrible. And the thing, too, that I don't get is people who think he's speaking honestly. Think like when they're like, he just says what he thinks. It's like, no, he says what he thinks you want to hear.
Yeah.
And I realize what it is it's people in the same way you can be racist or like prejudiced towards people of color that you've never met before. They're swooned by, they've never met rich people before. They don't, they think if you're that rich and you're saying something, it's true.
It doesn't matter as long as you have money and I don't.
Once you meet, like I deliver around here all the time and meet like all really rich people. I have friends who grew up in rich families and stuff, and once you meet them and realize, oh, they're just as full of shit as anybody else,
Yeah.
like then you get a whole different view of how so many people get rich just by like blundering their way through the system, but it happens to work out for them.
Yeah. And some people, and the thing is that people realize just like rich people or black people or people are just people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. People think they give perceptions of
Yeah.
what they have or what they look like, but once you just get to meet people, it's all the same. Some people are just either you're assholes, you're cool, it doesn't matter.
And there are extraordinary people out there, but they're, for the most part, will never tell you that they are the extraordinary people out there. That's the thing. Anytime somebody tells you they're the best and they're they're probably not.
Chances are they are not. What is the best right now is the fact that people are getting hurt by Pokemon Go. I think that is the most hilarious thing. Apparently, I guess what it is like I've read like kind of the backstory of it. I guess it's kind of like it's just owned with by Google. It's a way of just tracking all the space we have on Earth, and so what you're really doing with your camera is you're kind of just you're helping Google.
It takes in everything your camera sees.
Yeah.
Google has.
Yeah.
So when you're in your room going around with your camera like this, like they are photocopying, and so now like they'll never do it, but you could with Google Earth like ostensibly walk up somebody's stairs into their home and look around. Like
Exactly, yeah.
They've taken the idea of like the Google car that drives around and takes pictures for Street View or whatever, and they've brought that inside the home and into everything.
It's in a few businesses, but it's not in people's residential homes, and now it's kind of getting to the point where, yeah, it kind of is. You can spy on anyway. Yeah. And people don't realize it because it's like, oh, I'm catching shit. It's like, nah, not
but,
really.
I mean, it's not, you can't necessarily, I mean, you can spy in that you can see what they're seeing right then, but it's still like time dated. Like if they want to go back and look at it now, they know what your room looks like. They don't know what's happening in your room right now, but they know what it looks like. So you pretty much have like schematics of everything. Right. But no, it's dumb. The second there, I heard that it was like a game that's like you look at your phone and walk around. I was like, well, that can't go well.
Well, no, it's like there's a story. I guess like 2 brothers were fell off a cliff, and like just like they fell off a cliff, and I guess like one girl was walking into traffic, and like they're on the news talking about the game. And the mom's just like, I blame the game. It's a problem with the game, and she's looking at the game, and she's going into traffic. It's the game's fault, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? It's like the game doesn't supersede looking in front of you, to see what's going on.
Well, I mean, I get what I do say. It is like the game's fault. Like it's a dumb way to set up the game, but it's a stupid game. Yeah. And you were playing it.
Yeah,
like,
you were playing it. Like, no one said it's like no one said you had to play this game.
Yeah. This game is dumb, said the guy playing the game.
And some girl, I know, what's it called? Some girl also, she found a dead body
yeah, I heard
playing
about
the
that
game.
story.
She's like found it under a bridge or something like that, and it's just like I mean, apparently it was downloaded more than I guess like Tinder in the first like 3 or 4 days.
Twitter
beat
on
Twitter, like,
Android phones. It was downloaded more than Twitter. But the thing is now, like, it's almost a week later, and I feel like it like went way down.
Yeah.
Like maybe a bunch of people are playing it, but like literally it spiked because everybody downloaded real quick, and then I bet half of those people actually stay on and keep doing it.
And it's kind of a testament to how we have like no attention spans whatsoever, because there'll be something big and then it'll be, oh yeah, that's really cool, and then like give it like 10-15 days, and then we'll be talking about something else, and it'll be something else. And
I was surprised. I was down in New York City this past weekend at a music festival, and I thought people would be walking around the festival playing and shit. Didn't see that at all. Yeah.
What kind of concert was it?
It was a multi-day.
Governor's Island?
No, it was on Randall's Island. And my brother was playing in it. And so he got us like backstage passes and everything like that. But it was called the Panorama Festival. It was a super fun time. Arcade Fire closed out the first night.
Nice.
Then Kendrick Lamar the second night. And then for some reason, third night was a Sunday night. And I couldn't stay for it. Because why would they do it third night, Sunday night?
The dopest shit is on Sunday night.
And it was the LCD sound system. And I wanted to fucking see it so bad. But we had to get back because I had to work. But it was super cool. He got to play on the main stage. His band is Deluxe. Everybody check them out. They're great.
Nice.
They got to play on the main stage. We got to be like backstage and hung out in their trailer in the back and like had beers, and they have a giant catering tent that
nice.
So here's the thing. We had our bracelets said VIP. Theirs had a big A for artists on it. And I'm pretty sure, from what I could gather, we were not supposed to be back there. But the second you got past that one person to be backstage, and backstage, it's on an island on a giant park, so backstage is like
right
the size of a football field also. Like, it's trailers, it's, all the trucks and everything. There's just one opening and a gate to get back there.
And once you get there, you're good.
And once you get back there, nobody's walking around checking if you're supposed to be back there or not.
Hopped on any shows out there or no?
That time, no, because we literally got there Friday, had to go straight there in time to catch him go up, and then we just hung out there the whole time. And then I hadn't seen him in like 4 years. So Saturday, we just hung out all day, went all over, and then went back to the concert and watched Kendrick Lamar.
Good shit, man.
Yeah, it was a super fun time.
Yeah, it's festival, man. I mean, New York in general is just fucking crazy, though.
It was so fucking hot, though. And what I realized, too, is like, I showered after the first day, and then the second day by like noon, you just have this film of sweat and every bit of dust or brake dust or shit in the subways, like just all over you, and everybody does, and everybody is just dirty.
They're just used to it, but they're just so used to it.
They're used to it, but also like there are people who live in the suburbs and are super rich, and they drive a car in, and then they get out of the garage and walk into the building, and they have a suit on, and maybe they step outside for a minute, but they're like clean. Like, they get to come into a city and still be clean, and there it's like it doesn't matter who the fuck you are, you just get sweaty and film on you.
It's just millions of people on top of each other. But I mean, it's one of those things where like I thought about moving there like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like you kind of have to have that energy. It's just a different kind of beast. It definitely is.
We stayed in Williamsburg. I super liked that. It was living where I live now in Cambridge. I could get used to that in that the amount of people walking around on the streets and shit was about the same as Cambridge. You go into Manhattan and it's fucking 10 times
at all times.
It's way busier than any part of downtown Boston. But it's like a little bit slower pace over there, and I could handle that. But I just don't know if I want that. Like, I don't.
It's a commitment. It's a monetary commitment. It's also just a mental commitment.
Yeah, the one thing I don't want to struggle there. I don't want to be like, I'm fucking 31. I don't want to be struggling to pay rent still. Like, let me make it somehow and go to L.A. or live outside of New York or something, and you go in and it's just easier. But I just can't go to
No, man, at our age, it's
tons
definitely...
of roommates and struggle and shit.
No, definitely at our age, it's more of like, you definitely want to... You'd rather struggle on the beach than struggle in the snowbank.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm doing a show down in Brooklyn. I forget which part, but I'm doing something in a juice bar or something like that. It's some kind of new show, this guy I know. I met him at a festival a few months ago, and so I'm hopping on some show in Brooklyn in like 2 weeks. But I mean, yeah, I do love the city, but it's a fucking beast. Yeah. It's just a whole other thing. I don't think people understand if you've never been. I mean, how would you never go there? But I mean, it's just a fucking...
when was it? 2 years ago. First time I'd ever spent time in New York. I'd been there one other time.
Really? This was your second time ever? 2 years ago?
2 years ago was my second time ever. And the other time I went there, I was taking a bus to meet my friend, or to go to my friend's house in Philadelphia. And I fell asleep on the bus in Boston. And I knew I had a changeover in New York, but I just fell asleep and I just woke up when we stopped in New York. And we're underground somewhere. And I was like, I have no idea where I am. So I called my one friend who lived in Brooklyn. And be like, hey, man, you want to come hang out with me? I'm here for 2 hours. And he's like, well, it'll take me an hour to get there, so no. But also, you're at Port Authority, which is in the middle of Times Square, so just walk upstairs. And then I just, walked up and I was like, we drove here? We drove to...
Very fish out of water experience.
Yeah, and then this is what I did. I was so scared. I was like 18, and I was like, I don't want to get fucking robbed or mugged or anything. Like, not realizing, even then already Times Square was totally cleaned up and it was just a giant tourist trap, that I chain smoked cigarettes walking around. I was like, nobody's gonna mug somebody smoking cigarettes.
Oh, the hubris of it.
Yeah. If anything, I'll fucking flick it in their eye and run. And then 2 years ago, I went back with my girlfriend for a wedding, and then we actually spent time going around the city and stuff, and that was the first time there. And now since then, I've been down a bunch, and made it a point, the way Boston was the same way for me coming from Maine and coming from growing up on a farm in Maine was the intimidating thing is not knowing where you are, not knowing how the city works, how the roads work, where you are. So every time I've gone down there, and I got it pretty good now, where I don't know all the trains, but I know how to figure out the train system. And it makes sense to me now, where the first time, I looked at all those lines and all the letters and shit, I was like, I'm never going to get this.
Yeah. And really all it is if you know how to count, you know how to find. It's just numbers and streets. If you know how to...
Streets-wise, yeah. But the trains, though, following, which... Because some of them do weird, and it's the J, and then so many times this weekend, and I was the leader. It was me, my girlfriend, my brother, and his other guy in the band that we all hung out together on Saturday, and I was the point person for the subway.
Is everyone from Maine, pretty much?
No, my girlfriend's from Connecticut, me and my brother are from Maine, and then the other guy was from Texas originally. But my brother and the other guy, they live in L.A., and we're waiting for the J train to get over to Brooklyn, and 2 A trains come by, and then I notice a little poster and it says J train not running on weekend and I was like, all right guys, new plan, I gotta figure this out. And I had to figure all that out, but it's not intimidating at all now. But it was because I made it a point, every time I go down there, I will sit in my room and look at Google Maps and figure out where I am on it. We're staying in this part of the city, and we're, it's just over the river, but that's weird. We're actually, ready to cross the river from Midtown and shit like that.
And the worst thing to deal was those fucking random dance parties that happen on those trains. Clear out, guys, we're going to do a show. It's what do you, at least 3 or 4 of those in one weekend.
What I love and both hate about New York is that you can just fucking ignore anybody. You can just ignore, and you can just... Shit,
they're so
you can
used
do
to
that.
it.
You can do that a little bit in Boston, but there's still a little bit of I walk with friends through the city, and somebody will be like, "Hey man," and I just be like, "Don't fucking talk," and they'll be like, "What is it?" And you're like, "Oh God, no!" But people in New York you have a set thing that you're gonna do, and nobody interferes with that. You just walk and ignore everything.
Exactly. Or just roll up your cigarettes, which is actually the first time I actually met you ever was at Laugh Boston, and you were just in the corner of the green room, rolling up cigarettes. Do you never ever buy cigarettes, or are you that's just your thing, constantly
Oh, no, I always buy rollies because
Yeah.
it's cheaper and you get way more.
Yeah.
And I don't even smoke. The other thing is I don't smoke a lot, and by that I mean like one or two a night if I'm drinking more. But I never smoke during the day. I always I don't know. It makes me feel if I haven't had a drink and I smoke a cigarette, I feel depressed. And I don't want it at all, and it doesn't taste good. But after I have a couple drinks, I'm like, oh, I like a cigarette, and I do that, and I feel fine. But because of that, I feel like having like a wrapped up bag of tobacco, like I don't know if it does, but in my mind it stays fresher. I don't know if that's a true thing or not. But so that way, like if I will go like 2 days without smoking or anything, like it's more like having a bag of weed or something like that. You just have there, but. Because I used to when I was like 19 or 20 or so, I was doing a bunch of drugs and I would smoke cigarettes all the time, and I just hated it. Made it so easy to just take and smoke one.
Yeah.
And by rolling them, it's like you have to really want one. You gotta roll it up, and
it's all about discipline.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird. I have a bunch of like weird calculations of why I do things or whatever, but in my mind it makes sense. And then every time I explain it to somebody, they're like, that sounds pretty dumb to me.
Jordan, you're a comedian. You don't need to explain yourself. We're just, and it's funny that I realized about. I've only been doing comedy like almost, I want to say like 2.5 years, and it took me to about a year and a half to realize we're just not like everybody else.
Yeah,
like I didn't realize that at first. I was just like, oh yeah, we're just some cool people who want to just tell some jokes, and it's like no, like our minds kind of just work a complete different way as far as just how we think and decisions we make. Like,
if you have a propulsion to keep doing it, then definitely.
Yeah,
people who try a little bit and then get out, like you are like everybody else.
Yeah,
you thought
exactly.
You could be cool.
But if you have that kind of need to, keep going out there and just taking all that shit, and you still want to keep going,
yeah, there's
something wrong with you.
Yeah, and what I love though is you're not like everybody else, but also like. No comedians are like so many people I know and I'm friends with from comedy are from groups of people that I never would hang out with. Like people who are into super Pokemon Go fans. Like in whatever I do in the rest of my life, I would never meet those people. Yeah. But because I'm friends with people in comedy who are who are like into video games or like I never played video games or anything, but I know shit about it. Because some of my good friends who are super into video games are also into comedy. Like, it's like this weird Venn diagram of, like, you could come from anywhere and you're, like, the one guy in that group who also has the propension for comedy. And because of that we meet. And that's why I love comics and the group of friends I have from comedy, because it is the only thing we have in common is comedy. And it's almost like... because we all do it so much, like the least thing you want to talk about. So instead, you end up learning about
other people's shit. Yeah,
other people's shit that I would have no idea. Like I grew up skiing and wanted to ski professionally growing up, and I feel like that to so many other people in comedy is like we have no idea what that world is like.
That takes like trying really hard and excelling and stuff. Whereas even though we're trying hard, it's like we're pretty lazy. We're lazy, but, like, we're hardworking. It's a weird kind of balance.
It's a weird thing of both, yeah. Lazy physically.
Yeah.
I'd say physically lazy. Mentally, maybe a little better. A little stronger than, like, some other people. But also, it's just the thing that where you're trying hard the most is either... people telling you no or crowds telling you no and constantly just like ignoring that and persevering and like pushing ahead. Where if you were skiing and you just literally were falling all the time, you'd be like, skiing's not for me, man.
Yeah. I don't know. You go on stage and you eat it, you just move on. Whereas like you fall on the slopes, you might break a leg. And it's like, well, maybe I should probably do something else.
Yeah, or also like if you tell somebody, I want to be a pro skier, and they're like, let me see you ski, and you just can't ski. Yeah. And they're like, well... no, you can't ski. You're not going to be a pro skier. It's a funny thing of like you have to just put your head down and plow through that, which I guess maybe in sports you do, but you do it at such a young age that
you have to love it too. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah. But even the best people, the best people in skiing, at 2 years old were killing it. They were
Exactly.
the best fucking 2-year-old at the time. Like,
and the one thing I take away from comedy is if we're ever to become like celebrities, we're the one celebrity who can like speak their mind. Because there's so many celebrities who, once they get to whatever the level it is, they can't really be themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas when you think of comedy, it's like that's the one kind of profession if you're made it or whatever making it is to you.
yeah.
But you can at least kind of say what you want, say how you feel, and you don't have to be, censored because, well, you got this sponsor, you can't say that. And
Or you don't, not everything you say is written in stone as far as,
Yeah.
like, this is what they believe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, you have the ability to be like, I fucking joke about everything. What I say about women? I joke about everything,
Exactly. Where a lot of people are just like, well, their lives kind of depend on you do this, and then you play by this script where we can kind of just say whatever we want, and that's kind of our job.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to be a celebrity, I feel like that's the one celebrity to be.
No, I mean, Rockstar's the one celebrity to be, but...
But then you got to work with other people, it's like that, it's a band, and then...
No, that is funny, though, because I thought about that when I did my first play in college, and they had us write bios, and I wrote one I wanted to be funny, and this is before I'd ever done stand-up, but it was like always my propension to be funny. That's the right word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, want to do things, yeah.
Education.
And I wrote a completely fake bio where I thanked like wife and kids that I don't have.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I always do this, if I always write weird shit and stuff like that, but then also like actually something like this, like tell the truth and talk to somebody honestly about my life. But if there's just all this misinformation out there also, they'll never know what's true and what's not true.
That's
and
funny
you
as
can
shit.
say anything.
Yeah,
you
it's
can
funny.
say anything because you can throw it into the category of true or not true if there's enough stuff in the public eye to go like, yeah, but when he was 21, he said he had 3 kids and a wife.
What's that all about?
Yeah.
Be on Oprah's couch like, Jordan, you mentioned this, but you didn't have any kids.
Yeah,
what's going on with that?
That's dumb shit. I do that a lot.
Yeah, and we can just have it to fall back on. Who were your main kind of comedy influences?
Who did I like? Growing up, my dad, it was so weird how libertarian my dad is, but they like introduced me to George Carlin. And when I was a kid, it was just, I almost didn't even get some of the shit, but it was like, this is funny. And so I'd just watch it and be like, oh, I guess it's funny. And then I started to get into it, and I liked, anybody my age, like Adam Sandler was fucking hilarious when Happy Gilmore came out, and I was maybe 13 or something. It was the funniest fucking thing in the world. But the person who really changed how I thought about stand-up was Bill Hicks, because I was maybe 19, 20, and I saw there was like a DVD I got with all 3 of his like great specials on it. It was like Revelations, Revolution, and one other one. And that made me realize like, oh, you can say real things, make real points about stuff. You don't have to go to like, even if you bring up a real point at first, you go to like a dick joke. You don't have to do that. And then that's when I like started really looking into comedy more, or not even comedy, but stand-up specifically, because I'd always loved like comedy.
You just thought
movies.
it was just like throwing a bunch of funny words. Like, oh yeah, this is like this, but now you can actually make a point.
And I was just, the only thing you got in Maine as far as comedy from, 89 to 97 was the most generic stereotype. Like, we didn't even have Comedy Central. I only saw Comedy Central at my friend's house. So any like comic you saw in it was like one of these like 80s comics, or like even Seinfeld, who I think is hilarious, but is never making a statement about society or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I was like a super hippie kid, and when I was rebelling against my parents when I was a teenager and being hippie, and so I always thought like, like dumb 80s comedy or whatever stand-up where it was like, man, there's so much more to fucking think about and to do right now. And then I saw, like, Bill Hicks, and I was like, oh, I guess you can do that with comedy. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Because for a while, it was kind of those things where this observational humor. It was like, what's the deal with that? What's the deal with that? And, like, nowadays, I mean, I think comedy's probably in one of the best places it's ever been.
Oh, for sure.
Nowadays. It's definitely, like, one of the best places it's ever been.
Because it might not be as big as it was in the 80s, but it is so much better and so much more... accessible because of the internet, for sure, but also, like, a little bit more respected, where, like, some of the top voices in culture we go to figure out or learn about culture are comics or people who started out as comics and are doing other things now. Like, Louis C.K. wrote the thing about Trump, and it's like that was everybody going, like, this is an intellectual person speaking his mind, we should all listen to it. Where if it was 1988 and the Amazing Jonathan wrote something about Nixon or about Reagan, everybody, like, it wouldn't even make the news.
It's funny when they switch over, like, a lot of actors, they switch over to doing serious roles. Like, how did he do that? And it's like, people don't realize it's like they're artists too. And I think we're finally kind of getting the props we deserve, but people kind of just would see comedians as just, oh, he just tells jokes. But it's like, no, they're acting up there. If anything, they're acting better than most actors because they're writing what they're talking about. Yeah. So they feel it way more than somebody just reading off a page and then memorizing it. And
it is so much harder from doing theater, I know this for sure, to get somebody to laugh than to get somebody to feel sad. It is so much harder to get somebody to laugh, because to get somebody to laugh, it is an involuntary reaction. They, like, you when something is actually funny and you're laughing at it, you can't help but laugh. But you can, like, woo somebody into sadness and, like, bring them with... You can't do that with laughter. It has to, like, surprise them and come out of nowhere, and they don't even know it's it, and all of a sudden they're laughing. But to make somebody sad is just say a fucking sad shit. Like, we are so easily thrown into sadness that, like, Steve Carell doing, like, dramatic roles and stuff, people are like, wow, who knew the guy from The Office? It's like, no, that's so easy to do compared to...
And the thing is, like, he didn't have to write it or anything. It's just like,
totally.
Actors, I mean, they are doing something, but it's not the same as going home, writing something, going out to a crowd, trying it out. Oh, that didn't work. Let me work on this and switch it up. And then going out every single night and then switching it up to make it work perfectly. And then say you need to do it in a certain amount of time, making it fit in this box. Like, that's hard.
But then also, once you figure all that out, then doing that same thing over and over again and not letting people ever see that you're doing that, like, making it seem like you're saying it for the first time is so much harder than learn, like, I'm going to do this speech about how my dad died. And it's like, already I'm sad because you said dad died. Like,
well, it's a very sad open mic night in general. But yeah, it is. It's just way tougher. But I mean, but you got to understand it too. Is like people don't understand the process, and it's kind of good. It's kind of because people say, "Oh, I don't know how you're doing that." And it's like they're not supposed to know.
Yeah,
they're really not supposed to get.
I go either way with that. I feel like people. There are a lot more comedy fans now, and, like, comedy nerds, and people are a little more inside baseball with how comedy works now, which is good and bad because. Those people say they come to an open mic, they know the process and they don't go like, hey, you fucking sucked up there. And they know, oh, that was a bunch of new shit? Well, it'll probably turn into something. But also it is the flip side of it of, they see you do an actual, your fucking 20 minutes that you've been working on really hard and stuff, and they go like, well, he's done those jokes 100 times and I can tell because... he said this and I saw him last week. So it's like two sides of the coin. But it is better as far as getting people to come to comedy shows and know the difference of, like, this is an open mic. And, like the one Sean does in Quincy is...
Sean Carter and Fire and Furnace. Give him his props.
Iron Furnace, Quincy, Tuesday, Sunday nights. But that is, like, a group of people who are kind of, like, into comedy the fans that go there, and they allow it to be like a space to work out at. But they're like, we just love it, and we're going to laugh, and we'll let you know when things are good, and when things aren't good, we're not going to get angry because we know what this is.
Yeah. And there's very few places that are like that, where just like, it's a random Tuesday night, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to take the good with the bad. There are very few places where people are going to do that.
Because it's either the second the bad comes, everybody stops listening or starts heckling or whatever.
But yeah.
Which is where I'm going to go to a spot tonight. I'm going to go to the Middle East and do a spot, and that is the worst place. That is
I feel like, I mean, I haven't been there in a while, and it's just one of those things where it's just, I feel like when it gets too late, people kind of just tune out. But I feel like that's also a good thing too, though. You want to be able to just like handle a crowd that doesn't give a shit.
I will always go there because for that exact reason. I'm just like, if something makes them laugh here. Now, I don't go if they didn't laugh, it's not good. Yeah. But I do say if something made these people laugh and got their attention, that is good.
It means way more.
Yeah, it means way more. Now, other things that I think are funny and I do it there and it gets nothing, I go, well, it's just, try it again somewhere else. But yeah, that's why people complain about that, and I'm like, no, it's good. It's kind of good to have a spot where you just like, let me go to battle tonight. Let me go place and just fucking battle this crowd.
Because that's what, I mean, a lot of people, that's what Boston really is, or at least it is to me. It's like, comedy's a fight. People kind of think of it as like, oh yeah, you're just going up there having a good time talking to people. It's like, no, it's like, it's literally just you trying to control a situation.
Yeah.
And if they turn on you, you have to be able to fight your way back into gaining control of this situation. And like when you're going up stage, it's literally like, these are my weapons, these are my jokes here and there, and I need to fight this crowd into liking me. And I don't know how it is in other cities. I mean, I've gone to other cities here and there and haven't spent enough time to see the scenes, but I know like Boston is very much just like, or me personally, I'm like, I need to beat this crowd. It's a fight.
Yeah. I think that's a good analogy for some shows and for some places. Others, I think it's more like you need to win them over, but not like in a fight. I don't know. That's good for some stuff, but also like others where it's like just a great show and there's an audience there and everything's chalked up for you. If you come at it with that kind of combativeness, it's like, oh, you almost ruined it. Like they weren't looking to fight, you know what I mean? Like they were having a great time.
Not like aggressive, but my thing is just like it's you don't have to come out aggressive, but I mean the way where it's just what we're doing right here, it's not having a happy kind of conversation. I'm trying to push these people in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. But that is also weird when you do like bigger places where like maybe the biggest I've done. I did a ski lodge up in Maine, and that was like 500 people.
Yeah.
But that was just weird. But like Laugh Boston, where it's almost like.
Have you done it packed before?
Yeah, I've done like sold out there before, and it's almost it goes back into that theater mode. Especially because I'm like hosting or middling, where I'm not going to talk to the crowd. If the headliner wants to like actually get down in there and talk to the crowd, but otherwise you're up on the stage above everybody, it's packed, and you just kind of feel like you get up there and you do the play. Like you get up there and you do your 15 minutes, and so if somebody like a little murmur from over here, you don't address that because there's 250 other people that didn't even hear that, and so you just do it in this way, opposed to like
30 or 40 people.
30, 40 people, or even at the studio with like 90 people or something. Yeah. And if somebody murmurs over here, you go, "Hey, everybody, let's look over there."
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, I've been lucky to. The first time I ever did Laugh, there was 120 people there on a random Wednesday. And
wasn't that with maybe the first time we met?
I think that's the first time we met.
Yeah,
first
it was
time
like
it was
some
a random
convention or something was going on. It was great.
Yeah, because I was like, oh yeah, I got booked here. This is cool. Like this is an actual like green room, and then we go out there's like 120 people, and like you don't. I'm not saying it's easy, but you don't have to try as hard because of the volume of people.
Yeah.
And I did some other sets where I've done like. Maybe 300 to 400 people, and it's like, give me 300 to 400 people, because if you get a quarter of those people to laugh, you're good. You can't even tell the people who don't care.
If you have 400 people and you get a quarter to laugh, that's still 100 people laughing. Yeah. Like, and it changes the energy of everything else, and
Exactly.
you might have more people laughing. Yeah, it is weird how that works like that. But at the same time, I've seen like Joey Diaz at the studio, or not at the studio, at Laugh Boston, and it's a weird thing when like 300 people are all fucking synced in on one person laughing at him, like, and there is no little chatter because everybody is drawn in. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's a cool thing.
No, I'm glad he's kind of getting his props. I mean, he could never do a Letterman sketch just because of his style. It's just way too long. But I mean, he's definitely, even with probably with the help of podcasts, he's kind of transcended what he normally would be.
But here's the thing: I think he will end up being on talk shows. He'll never do stand up on them, but I think he'll do panel, and he will be one of the funniest fucking people on panel.
Yeah,
they'll just have him on, and he'll talk to the other guests on and shit like that. I think, and maybe Conan will get to this point. Somebody eventually will, where it's a thing like Johnny Carson used to do, where they're not promoting anything. They're not on there for any other reason than just because they're funny. And who is it? We don't have a second guest tonight. Let's call up Joey and we'll get him on.
Yeah, just come through.
And we know
Uncle
whatever
Joey,
happens, he's going to be hilarious.
No.
Bill Burr's done that a little bit with Conan, where he's not promoting anything. He's not there for any reason, but he just bring him on. We don't need to do any pre-interview. Whatever he wants to end up talking about, he's going to talk about. And
Burr was actually the first comedian I ever saw at a club, ever.
No shit.
I was I was down in New York visiting some friends, and I was 20, and we were like, well, we can't get into most shit because we're not 21, so let's just go to Caroline's.
Oh, nice. And was he like
Caroline's.
headlining?
Yeah, he was headlining. He was the main guy. They were like, yeah, you always want to see Bill Burr? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, not knowing that I would ever like live in Boston, and he'd be like the guy from there. But no, he crushed it. The people before him crushed it, and this is like 7 or 8 years before I even thought of doing comedy.
Yeah.
So I was had an interest in it, but I never was like, oh yeah, let's just go and do this. And it just like he crushed it, and he's kind of. I mean, I feel like he'll never get, because he's just so angry. He'll never kind of transcend to this other kind of level because he's just so. Everything's based on rants. I mean, he's great.
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean by other type of level?
Like, he's a legend in Boston, but I don't think he'll get like to the whole, the whole Seinfeld kind of Chappelle kind of level, because I feel like he's just.
I get. Yes and no. I mean, there's.
I'm not saying he's not good enough.
No.
I'm not saying he's not good enough. I feel like he's just like. His style is just like, I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
All the time.
But one, I think, like, his animated show, I think, is kind of showing a little other side of him.
He's branching out, yeah.
But I think he will be, he is at that level, if not will be, like, a type of Chappelle. Like, he's never going to be
But I don't think he cares.
No, he doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit at all. But I think that he'll never be like a Seinfeld in that, like, host the Oscars because America can all agree on you. Like that, he'll never be like that. But I do think that he's getting, like, he is one of the funniest fucking people now, and
hands down.
He's getting to the point of like that next level of not like untouchable funny, but like, and it's a tough place to be in because he's somebody who's good at that. He goes up to the Comedy Store a lot and stuff of like, you have to check yourself because otherwise you're just going to get a bunch of people telling you you're funny and you're good. But no, I think it's a weird thing. I was thinking about this the other day with like Louis or him, is we're seeing the first generation of people to find themselves and become really successful in like the second act of their life, and then have that actually last because people are getting older and stuff now. Where like our parents' generation, everybody that they looked up to and thought were amazing were people who made it at like 20, at like 25, and
which is ridiculous nowadays.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, but people still do it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like if you make it at 25, well, that's going to end and you're going to be 40 and have another 20 years. So you
what
can't,
are you going to do?
Like, yeah, what are you going to do? But also you have these people like Louis where you don't make it until you're 38. And some people like Rodney Dangerfield didn't make it till he's 60 or 55 or something, and then luckily he lives to be 85, so he gets to enjoy it, and we get to really see it flourish and stuff and see who he is. But we're getting people like, you make it at 38 or 40, and then you still have 40 years to be that person, and you're so like grown and weathered from that time that you can really do something with it. And so somebody I opened for, he was a super nice guy, Greg Fitzsimmons.
Nice.
I listened to his podcast, and he was talking about like how he's had a lot of opportunities and stuff, and as you get older in life, you feel like, oh man, maybe it just didn't happen for me. And it's like, no, you have no idea. Like, it can still happen for you.
Yeah.
You can be 50, and that's when everything clicks, and in 30 years of hard work like comes to fruition, and boom, you like just make it, and then you can still enjoy it, because we're not all dying of heart attacks when we're 55.
Which I feel is like the benefit of me starting so late, is whereas like I think it actually works better, because had I done this when I was 20, what dumb shit would I have been talking about?
Oh yeah, totally.
Whereas now it's like I have a better kind of sense of what happens in the world.
The only reason I wish I'd done it sooner was
energy.
Energy, and also just like I wish I was 10 years in now.
Yeah.
But I'm not. Like I'm 5 years in, so I'm, because it's one of those things of like I wish I was 30 and 10 years in, because that's a great place to be. But even if you're not, like I do think like when I think back to all the things that I thought were funny or important to me then,
not
I'm
funny
like,
at all.
31-year-old me was like, I don't want to fucking listen to that guy.
Yeah. But no, nowadays you have way more perspective. But what's it called? Before we get out of here too, we just want to talk about the album recording.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what date is that? It's in
September 23rd and 24th at Great Scott in Alston. I think it's like 7 or 7:30, maybe doors at 7, show at 7:30.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing an hour and recording it.
How you feeling about it? You got some kind of like things you're working around, or do you have like a set structure? Or right now, this whole month, you're pretty much just prepping and kind of seeing what works.
Prepping, like I know all the stuff I want to do, and now it's figuring out the order, coming kind of. Because it all does kind of have a through line, but like some things jump around, and so I gotta like figure like, do I do this bit here, or do I do it like 10 minutes later when I kind of bring something up similar about it there? So I've been writing down kind of like timelines, I guess, of my set, but it's not my set. It's more like, because what I do is kind of like me from a kid to me in my 20s, or like it's all bits about stuff that happened in that time. And then some obscure stuff, but I'm able to like relate it in. So it's just been about like doing the hour, and or I've been doing in like half-hour chunks when I can too, and seeing where everything fits. And the funny thing is like some of the stuff is a little bit newer, but it like totally fits into the whole theme that I want to do. And then other stuff is like I kind of hate that I even have to work on it, because like I don't even want to say it again. I want to get it on an album, and I'm like, I'm done with those jokes. I don't want to do them again, but I have to do it again in order to get ready to make sure like it fits in with everything.
Flow and everything together. Yeah.
But so it's like half stuff that I'm like really excited about that I've been working on, and then the other half is stuff that I'm really proud that I came up with, but I can't wait to have an excuse to never do it again.
Yeah. No, it should be a good experience, y'all. I will definitely be there. And so before we head out, I always have 3 questions I like to ask the guests real quick. Favorite adult beverage, favorite drink?
I mean beer, but I couldn't necessarily pick one. I like all different kinds of
all
beers.
Sorts of beer.
Yeah, but I would say beer over. The only other thing I drink is like whiskey sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like.
Do you have an allegiance to a certain brand of these beers or whiskeys?
Whiskey, Jameson, pretty much Jameson, or if I go fancy, I like Knob Creek. Beers, if I'm going cheap, I like Narragansett, and if I'm going higher end, there's a ton of stuff I like.
Nice. Second question: if you had any superpower, what would it be?
Flying. I would want to fly, because especially growing up doing skiing, that's the only thing I ever thought about was like, I'll make it look like I'm going off the jump, but it won't be scary because if I'm gonna crash, I can just fly. Like that was the.
I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, that was the only thing I ever want to be able to do.
And lastly, if you had $1 million, what is the first purchase you are making?
oh, sushi.
Sushi?
I go get sushi.
Gotta get them fish, motherfucker.
Yeah, and then I'd like just sit down thinking, but like I would go to a great sushi place, and then like, I mean, I do that when I get a paycheck, let alone $1 million. Like, I get a paycheck and I go like, I can go get that $12 sushi thing that they have at the fucking, what is that place? The right in Cambridge, the like
Monkfish?
No, it's the weird. I'm not weird. I'm sorry, my Asian friends.
It's very normal, you guys.
The market, like the Asian market. That's
right in Central Square. I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fuck, I can't think of the name of it right
But they
now.
have like a sushi thing that's
H-Mart,
and it's just raw fish. No, like I like just straight fish. You dip it in. It's like this weird hot sauce, but it's no rice, no seaweed or anything. It's just the fish, and it's like $12, and you get like a little bit of salmon, a little bit of tuna, a little bit of something else. And when I get a paycheck, I just go get one of those because I like.
Good shit, my brother. And so before we get out of here, Jordan, where are you going to be recently, and where can we follow you?
When does this come out?
This is coming out next week or so.
So I got this next week.
Checking his calendar.
And this podcast, you can look for me on this podcast next week.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I got some good ones. Mike Lawrence, I'm going to be hosting for him at Laugh Boston in August 12th and 13th.
Nice.
The Kowloon the week after that for Louis Ramey, super fucking funny.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody listens to this north of Boston, go to that. And then I'm going out to the Longmont Comedy Festival out in Colorado the week after that. I'll be out in Colorado for like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff in Boulder and Denver, and then also the Comedy Festival.
Nice. Good stuff. And where can we find you at? Twitter?
Twitter at Handren-Seavey, and Facebook, Jordan Handren-Seavy.
Very nice, sir. Well, guys, thank you for listening to the Friends with Word podcast. I've been Jason May. This has been Jordan Handren-Seavy. Peace and love. Take care.
Bye.